Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today in this video, it's gonna be beginning of a new series in JavaScript. So as I promised you earlier in the last video of JavaScript for Beginners tutorial, I said that I'll be uploading a new series and we're gonna be starting a new series about JavaScript's advanced method, or you could call it intermediate to advanced methods. So in this series, we're going to be covering a lot of stuff about JavaScript, which are really essential for you in working for your web development career, and even in your interview or where you want to get a job placement. This is going to be helpful. So these are the most amazing thing that makes JavaScript one of the most popular language for web development, and not even for web development. It's for app development and all of that kind that works with the internet. It's all basically JavaScript. So today in this video, we're going to be talking about one of the most important thing in JavaScript, which is promises. And what is a promise? So before moving on to the video, I'll explain you what are promises and how they are applicable in your real life. So the first thing about promises is like, let's take an example, okay? So I promise you that I'll be meeting you on Sunday. So this statement I just said, it's a promise, right? I said, I promise you that I'll meet you on Sunday. Now this promise, either it can be resolved or it can be rejected in JavaScript, okay? So I make a promise in JavaScript and I say that I will meet you on Sunday. Now this promise can be fulfilled, or either it can be rejected or not fulfilled. Either I may come on Sunday or I may not come on Sunday. If I do come on Sunday, then that means that I've resolved the promise and I've fulfilled what I actually said, and I'm a man of my word. And if that is not the case, if I didn't come on Sunday, that means that I rejected the promise and it didn't fulfill. So that means I'm a coward, or maybe I'm not a man of my words. So that was a really basic example of promises and how they work, okay? So I told you about the resolve and reject thing. So these are the two main keywords that you need to remember while you're working with promises. So before talking furthermore, I'll like to go ahead and open up a new terminal and then start with documents. So in this documents, it's going to be my files. And then, okay, instead of using this terminal, it's like much more blurry. I use it for Vim and all of that stuff. I'll go with GNOME terminal. CD documents, CD JavaScript, it's tutorials / JavaScript. And then now I'll go for the there JS for JS. I'll go for a simple JS _ for advanced JS for. Now I'll open in my Visual Studio Code over here. Oh, first let me create a new chapter. mkdir chapter 1 and cd chapter code. Okay, so that was that took a bit long, but it's fine. Now we're successfully into our chapter 1 folder. So the first thing that we're going to learn in promises is that we already learned about how do promises work. Now we're going to be learning about the code implementation, okay? So first thing before starting, I'll tell you that JavaScript is asynchronous. What do you mean by asynchronous? So the first thing asynchronous in JavaScript is like it's asynchronous behavior. What is asynchronous? So let's take an example that you are working in a website or you're downloading a file from a website. Now, while you're downloading, that's moving on simultaneously with what you're doing, right? You might be playing video games, you might be watching movies, or any kinds of stuff that you do on the internet. You are not going to simply wait for it to download and do all of your stuff afterwards. That is what asynchronous is. It moves on simultaneously without stopping the further code, without stopping you from what you're doing, and simply downloads it in the background. So suppose the example is like, let's take an example of you trying to make a request to a web page. Or let's say that you want to download something. You're downloading the file. You're not going to simply just stand there and wait until that thing is downloaded and you do all of the stuff that were pending for you, but simply you download that in the background and then you simply start working. That is one of the most easiest example that I can give you for asynchronous behavior of JavaScript. So without talking further more, I will just explain you in the video here. So first I'll create a index.html file here, and it'll be easy for you to understand what I'm saying. And then I'll go for index.js, and I'll add a script tag here. Now this script tag is going to have a source, and then it's index.js chapter 1. Okay, now in this index.js, what are we going to do? So we're going to learn about how do we create promises. So it's really easy for us to create promises. To create promises, we just simply create a variable, and it's going to be const. I'll say p is equals to new. This new keyword is initializing a constructor. So this promise is a constructor, and we'll be learning about what are constructor in the further videos. In the future videos, we're going to be learning about how to create a constructor function. And yeah, you just need to simply know the syntax for now. I'd say new promise, and then this promise is going to have a function. Now this function is accepting two parameters. The first parameter is going to be resolve, and one is going to be reject. And this resolve and reject, you see right over here, these are the two functions. So as I said to you earlier, a promise either can be resolved or either it can be rejected. It can be fulfilled or not fulfilled, or you can call it rejected. So in the first thing, what are we going to do is we're going to go for let num is equals to, let's say 5 plus 5. Now if you say if num is equals to 10, then what do I want is I want to resolve, and I'll say okay, I want to give a success method. So this is successful. Now if I go on to a else keyword, and I'll simply say reject if that is not the case. So I'm simply checking for a variable, and this variable, either if it is going to result in 10, then simply just resolve this is successful, then that means the promise is being fulfilled. And if that is not the case, then just simply reject the promise and say this is rejected. Now that is how we create a promise. Okay, so either it is resolving or either it is rejecting. So now in this obvious case, we know that 5 plus 5 is equals to 10. So that means the promise is going to be resolved and this is going to be fulfilled. But if we run this now, we're not going to see anything. Okay, we're not going to see any result. So we are going to call a promise. So to call a promise, what we do is we use some method called dot then. And what are those methods? So now I'll simply go and write the name of the promise, which is p, and then I'll simply go for a dot. And then it has three methods: finally, catch, and then. Today in the video, we're going to learn about then and catch only. So what then does is that it actually runs this resolve. If the promise is being resolved, then it actually accepts a message. So this is the message, and then it's a function that accepts message, and then I'll simply go for console log message, along in the message that I get. So if the promise is being resolved, for in this case, let's take an example, 5 plus 5, and if 5 plus 5 is equals to 10, then the promise is getting resolved. So yep, we know that the promise is getting resolved, but what if the promise does not resolve? We may not write the promises ourselves. It can be some different kind of person who write the promises, and you're simply making a request to achieve that promise or to fulfill that promise. So if the promise is rejected, we have something called catch. And this catch basically catches an error. You can call it a message or error or anything you would like, but in real life approach, we always go for error because a catch basically resolves any error. If your promise is being rejected, that means there's some kind of flaws or faults with your request or the promise that you're making, okay? So that is how it works. So now if we go on to the index.html and run this in our web browser, or either we could run it in our Node.js instead, but we're taking the browser approach for now. And this is successful. See, you can see that this is successful, has been resolved here. So why is this so? I've already provided you with a good explanation. Now again, I'll do it. Okay, I'll make this a little bit bigger so that you can see. Now, the first thing that we're doing in this is we're checking for P. We're writing a promise. Now, this promise is either resolving or either it is being rejected. Now, in this promise, we're setting a variable of number, and this number is 5 plus 5, which is obviously 10, and it's checking if this num, the variable num, is equals to 10, then it's going to go and say this is successful, resolved. That means the promise is accepted or fulfilled. Now, if that is not the case, if 5 plus 6, if I write that, then this is obviously getting rejected. So we can see that this is rejected in the console. So don't worry about this. This is our file icon that is not being that is not being in our file system. You don't need to worry about that. But, okay, sorry. I'm actually kind of sick. I'm having a little bit of cold, so please don't mind with my stuff. Okay, now the first thing we've learned about is how to call a promise and how to resolve the error. Resolve the success method and reject the reject method, rejected text. So this might not be the use case ever. Now I'll give you another use case, and then in this use case, this is going to be something useful. So let's say that there are two variables. Now first variable is const. We can say user left is equals to true. So just don't worry what I'm doing. Const user is watching some other videos is equals to, and then I'll offer plus. And then what I want to do is I want to create a promise. So I'll go for const user is watching videos, and then now it's a new promise, or either it could return a promise. So what are we doing is now in this situation, now we're creating a function. Now this function, why am I taking a functional approach instead of creating a promise in here? So the thing is, like, if you take a functional approach, then it'll be a lot more easier for us to get the thing that we actually want. So if we return new promise, and then this promise is resolving, rejecting, and what it is returning. So I'll check if the user left. If user left, then console, or we can go for reject, and then the user left. Else, if the user is watching some other videos, then what we want? We want to go for reject the user is interested in other stuff. But if you go for else, and we can say resolve the user is watching our videos. wish that the user likes to that. Okay, so that is a long stuff that we did here, but what we just did is that we created a function here, and this checks if user is watching videos. So whose videos the user is watching. Now it's returning a new promise, and then it's basically a resolve and reject. It's taking in two parameters, which is resolve and reject. Either the promise is getting resolved or either the promise is getting rejected. Now, in the first case, if user left, so if the user just didn't watch my videos and the user left, then simply reject. That means the user shouldn't leave. User should watch my video. That is a sad thing. And now we're checking in another condition. We're checking else if and checking user is watching some other videos. In this case, we're rejecting and saying the user is interested in other stuff. And then else, finally, if the user is not doing any of the stuff, the user must be watching my videos, then I'm simply resolving a success message. And then the user is watching our videos with that the user likes it and subs. So how do we call this promise? So calling a functional promise is basically easy, just like as we did before, like the P, but it is a function, so we're calling user is watching videos, and then it's a function. We need to call it, and then it's going for then message. It's going for a message, and I'll go for console.log, and then it's going to simply the message is, and I'll go for message. And if that is not the case, we are going to go for a catch, and then it's going to catch a error, and then console.log error. Now, if we go ahead and see in the console, it says the user left because we know that the value of user left is true. But what if I see that the user left value is false, and then user is watching some other videos is true, then simply you can see that the user is interested in other stuff, and that is also a reject method, because you can see that if the user is watching some other videos, that means it's rejecting the promise and not accepting it. But what if we say that this true value, now we set it to false, then we can see that it is giving us the success message, and it's saying the message is the user is watching our videos with that the user likes it and subs. So that is how promises work. So it's taking in basically like two parameters with resolve and reject, as I told you earlier in this promise that we've made before, and then it's checking user left, and the user left, it says the user left with a reject. And if the user is watching some other videos, and it's rejecting again and saying the user is interested in other stuff, and if it is not the case, that means the user must be watching more videos. Yep, we called it using .then and .catch. Now, let me give you a asynchronous example of this promises. So how do we actually know that if something is asynchronous? So let's take an example for promise here. So const promise2 is equals to new promise, and then it's resolve, reject, and then what we do. Now, first thing is we're console.log. This is before resolving, and resolve. Now we can say this is result console.log. This is actually after. What do I mean by that? So what is the stuff here? So now in this context, the resolve is in between of is being this is before resolving, and this is actually after resolving. So now some people might think that first this is going to run, And then second, this is going to be resolved. And then after that, it is going to be run. But that is synchronous method. What asynchronous is, now you'll understand it after I run this. So I'll go for promise to dot then, and it's going for a message. Now the console.log be message. Okay, now you can see that it says this is before resolving, this is actually after resolving, and this is resolved. So why does this come at the end? So this is because of the asynchronous behavior of JavaScript. Let's take an example. Instead of this, this is resolved. Now it says that the video is downloaded. So now the thing is like you want to download a video. Now this is a download promise. Now in this download promise, now first what it is checking is that the download is started, and then after the download is being done, so the process is being done. So it's not being stopped. It's not getting stopped, okay? You can do whatever you want. So it's not getting stopped. It's simply waiting. It's simply waiting for it to resolve and simply just resolving it at the end. This is going to run first, okay? This is not going to run at the end. You don't think that it's going stepwise step. So it doesn't go stepwise step. It always goes asynchronously. Now this is returning some kind of promise. This is pending, okay? This is pending. And then this is actually after resolving. But, you know, this doesn't come after it is being resolved because this process takes a little bit of time, okay? So that is how it works. That is how asynchronous JavaScript is. And I will give you another example if you don't understand, and we're going to talk about the promise methods. So now promise methods, what are promise methods? I mean, not about methods. Methods are those kind of functionalities that makes it easier for us to actually work with JavaScript and manipulations and all of that stuff. So let's take an example that we have multiple promises. So let's go for const. We can go for a video one is equals to new promise resolve. Okay, new promise. I didn't have to write like that. New promise, and then I'll simply go for resolve. I'll say video one downloaded. Now I need to copy this multiple times, and I'll go for 3 of the promises. Oh, I already. Okay, video instead of video 1, let's go for video 3 is equals to new promise, and video 3 to video to download. Now these are the 3 of the promises, okay? Let's say that you don't want to go and run the promises one by one and go for dot then and then dot catch and all of that stuff one by one. You don't want to do that monotonous work. So how do we actually simplify that? To simplify that, we have something called promise.all method. Now this promise.all method is basically, promise is a global stuff, so you can simply go for promise.all, and then this promise.all is adding all the values. So let's go for video 1, video 2, it's taking all of the promises, video 3, and then it's simply going and resolving that. So this is not going to be a singular message, this is going to be plural message, because you'll understand why it is. So we're resolving all of the promises over here, so it's not getting rejected. Now these promises are being run. Now the promises are being made, right? So I don't want it to go from one by one and one by one. I don't want it to go like that. I want it to simply just give me all of the stuff, okay? So I don't want it to wait for like video 1 and then video 2 and video 3. I want 3 of them to be running all at once. So to do that, we're simply going for video 1, video 2, and video 3. And then it's simply getting resolved, so we're not adding catch method. We can go for MESSAGES messages, and then simply console.log messages. So now if I go onto the console, it says in promise.all is not iterable. Wait. What is the problem over here? I think that I made a mistake here. Promise.all. I'll see the example here because you might get stuck with promises. So it's all right. We all might get stuck with promises. Okay. So it's fine with that. Okay, sorry. I made a mistake over here. So it's basically accepting in arrays. So I should have put an array here. So I made a big mistake over it. So it's like array, and it says video 1 downloaded, video 2 downloaded, and video 3 also downloaded. So I made a mistake. It's accepting an array, and then inside of the arrays, it's going for 3 of the promises. The first one is saying that video 1 is downloaded, and video 2 is downloaded, and video 3 is downloaded. Now, what if I don't want, let's say that I don't want to wait for all of the messages to pop up when all of the 3s are being downloaded. So if all of the 3 videos, let's say you're downloading video 1, video 2, and video 3, after all of the 3 videos are downloaded, you want to get the method. Okay, we've done that here. But what if you don't want to get that stuff after all of the videos are downloaded? Well, if you simply want the video 1, which is downloading at the first, so it's fast. Okay, it's downloaded fast. The first one to get downloaded, I want to show that. So to show that, what do we do is we can go for .race over here. Now, whatever the promise resolves first, it's simply going to go and give me the result of that. So I'll say promise.race, and then it's racing between video 1, video 2, and video 3, from which we get one message because only one is going to get downloaded first. So in that, we can see video 1 is getting downloaded first because it's in the top of the list. But in the real life example, it's not going to be like that. It's going to wait. It's going to go for some download functionalities. And then after the download functionality has been completed first, then it is going to get resolved and it's going to come over here. So that is how promises work in JavaScript, okay? So there are more of the stuff better than promises, and we'll learn about them in the next video. And we're going to learn about callbacks as well. Why are callbacks important and why are they not? What are the merits of callbacks and what are the demerits of callbacks? And what are the merits of promises and what are the demerits of promises? We're going to be learning that about those in the next video. We're going to be talking about async and await. So stay tuned in this course, okay? This course is going to be a heck lot interesting than the previous course that we did. Now, if you've not watched the previous course, please watch it. I've explained you all of the basics of JavaScript in there in just a short series, in short videos. I've explained you all of that. It's not like of hours long. It's just simply 30 or 20 minutes or 17 minutes long. So that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you actually did enjoy the video, please don't forget to like. And if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. And if you need any kind of assistance, then you can join our Discord server. The link is given in the description below. And also, we're working on our website. And that website is going to give you premium access of our course and the tutorials with much more functionalities. So I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care, everyone, and goodbye.